Well, it's 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. for us in BC, and we're going to get started right away. And as other people join us, we'll just add them to the conversation. I am coming to you from British Columbia, where it is 24 degrees.
Stop it.
I know. And I was just in Ontario wearing boots and a coat like a couple of days ago. So anyway, it feels pretty good to be where I'm at right now. But we just want to welcome you to this webinar. It's sponsored by ZOE Network, and at ZOE we work super hard and are passionate about empowering, activating, and mobilizing women in Canada to take risks and to respond to God's nudging in their lives. And so we call women on to leadership, and we love to tell the story of God at work in women just like you all across the nation and around the world. And so we're really, really thrilled that you're a part of this webinar. My name is Leanne McAlister, and I coordinate the ZOE Network, and so I'm going to be facilitating this conversation today. So our webinar is actually called Confidence, How to Move Forward When You Want to Hide. Now, can anyone else relate to that title? I wrote that title, okay? So that kind of gives you a little bit of a window into my heart and my life. You know, there are times in my life where I have felt a call to move out into something new and something that required risk, and I wanted it with everything in me, but I would always, I was going to say often, but seriously, always feel vulnerable because it required some sort of risk. And I've spent a lot of my leadership life doing kind of, you know, a really bad dance move where I'm moving towards what God would be calling me into, but then moving back and retreating because of really a lack of confidence. And so I talk with girlfriends, and this is a theme that comes up a lot. And I know that I'm not unique in it. And I imagine that you're here because you would kind of identify with that weird dance that we can get into. So we're going to be talking about confidence today. And I have a couple of really good friends that I want to introduce you to. The first is Tricia Gibb. And Trisha, you live in Sarnia, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, I made that note and I'm like, wait, so Trisha's with us, joining from Sarnia. We also have Patti Miller, my good friend from Montreal. And so we're just going to have a conversation and listen in. And yeah, our prayer is that it will be really encouraging to you in your leadership and where you're at right now in your life. So let me just pray and then we'll get started. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for all of the women on this call today. We're literally stretched from one end of the country to the other. And we just give this conversation to you. We thank you that you're at work in all of our lives, and you're always calling each one of us on to take risks and to move forward in the life that you have for us. And so, God, would you just speak to us and, really meet us in this call. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So, Tricia, why don't you just introduce yourself, who you are, kind of what you do, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, sure. So I work at a church in Sarnia, and I have been here for almost 14 years now. So I was a kids and youth pastor for a long time, and have recently transitioned into an assistant pastor role, which is kind of a fun new adventure that I'm on. And then I'm also just recently became the women's ministry director. I always have to think of how to describe this title, but the women's ministry director for the Western Ontario district of the Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada.
Can you say that 3 more times, please?
I know, it's just the longest title ever, but
your business cards are this big.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's fun right now. I'm still in my first year, so it's like dreaming and casting vision and just figuring out what we're gonna do. But that's a real honor right now as I'm starting this new position in our province.
That's awesome. Good. And Patti, can you just introduce yourself and kind of what you're up to lately?
I'm Patti, and I'm lead pastor at Evangel Church in Montreal. Been here about 3.5 years, and I was in Hamilton before that for 16 years, and in Toronto before that. And yeah, so I'm living in Montreal, where I get to complain about how cold the winter is all the time.
It was a cold one this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was icy, and I broke my wrist. So now I'm a true Montrealer because I fell on the ice and broke my wrist. So
there you go.
Yay.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. So we're talking about confidence, and you know, one of the things that in my own study about confidence, and we talked about this in the identity course, is the fact that confidence is not a static thing, that there is ebb and flow to confidence. And I'd love to know kind of what, now Patti, you're going, yes, there is an ebb and a flow. So do you find that to be true?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it can ebb and flow depending on the day of the week or if I've had a second coffee, but also through seasons. And I mean, if you're trying something new, your confidence is less. If it's something you're comfortable with, your confidence is more. If there's somebody that shows up in the room that you weren't expecting that really makes you nervous, you can just, can just plummet in confidence in like a second, just going, oh great, that person's here, I didn't know that was going to happen, or whatever. So yeah, all the time.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. Trisha, would you say that's true for you as well?
Oh, yeah, totally. Actually, what you just said, Patti, about like someone walks in a room and you're like, you were feeling good until you see that person, and then for whatever reason you're like, you feel like a shell of a person, like, how can I do this? Yeah, totally. It's a definite ebb and flow, and you feel like you're getting better and better and better, and then you have like one day or one situation and you're like, I thought I was a confident person and now I'm questioning.
Yeah.
Okay,
totally.
Suddenly I just feel better about life. Anybody else? Raise your hand. Who else feels better about that? I'm actually amazed sometimes because like I have those moments where I get up in the morning and I catapult out of bed and I have, you know, purpose, and I understand, you know, kind of where I'm going, what I'm about and everything. And then boom, I'll just hit something and it's like I just kind of shrivel down to nothing. So what, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put your confidence right now?
Trisha?
I feel like I normally fall like somewhere in like a 7 or an 8. Like, I don't think I've like achieved confidence in all levels, but I'm also not where I used to be. Like, I'm on the, like, I've grown. So I think I'm pretty comfortable with a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, I think so I'm being honest, because I talked through some of these questions or a little bit with Jeff beforehand. I said, I think I'm about an 8, but that's, you know, generally speaking, there's still really bad days and that where it's less than that. But generally speaking, I think that's where I'd put it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's, if we kind of like, I want the women listening to hear a little more of your story, just to kind of like who you were and where you'd gone and kind of how you got there. So maybe Patti, we'll start with you. Like, did you always set out to be a pastor? Like, was this kind of your life plan? What did you aspire to do or to be when you were growing up? Like, think of your like 13-year-old self in junior high. What was that girl like? What was she aspiring to do?
The 13-year-old had no idea. And I was really, really shy. So I was shy my whole childhood and teenage years. I was really small for my age. I was horrible at sports. So I just, you know, tried to avoid most people as much as I could because you just don't fit in, right? And when I was maybe a few years older, like for me, there was probably a turning point when I went on a short-term missions trip with Teen Missions. And my parents say I came back different from that because I realized the world was bigger than the little town that I lived in and whoever was bullying me there or whatever. And I know I did have a bit of a sense. So that was when I was 14. So after that, there was a little more of a sense of, even if somebody's, really treating me badly here, they're not actually the whole world, which probably made a big difference for me. But no, I never thought I was going to be a pastor. I had never seen a female pastor, so it didn't cross my mind. And so I just figured I really liked office work. So I thought, wow, I'll probably end up in business somewhere and marry a nice boy. And maybe he'll be a pastor because I liked being in a ministry family, and we'll have 2.5 kids because that's what you do, 2.5 average. And then that's it. Right. So yeah, if you had told 13-year-old me what my life looks like now, I would have just been shocked. So,
wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you feel that call to ministry and to eventually become a lead pastor of a large church in a big city?
Well, it all just happened in one magical moment when an angel appeared. So I went to college first, and while I was in college, for office administration, I just knew I was looking. I just thought God's got something more for me than this. And so, really went through a period of angst going, what am I supposed to do? And in the middle of prayer one day, I'm in a prayer room at my church, and I kind of pour out to my friend who's praying with me, I just wish I could go to Bible college and learn about, the Bible. And I'm pouring all this out, and she's just looking at me, and I go, oh, that's what I should do. And so I finished college, and then I went to Bible college. And then while I was there, I honestly don't remember, but somewhere in there, I realized I didn't have to marry a pastor. I could be one. And then, was offered I helped out at a church in my last year, volunteered there. And then when I graduated, they offered me a position, and it was right in the city, and it just kind of went on from there. It's just been one step at a time. I was a small town girl. I was born in a town of 4,000 people. And never thought I would be in cities. And now I've been 25 years ministering in city centers, city cores, and love it. But each step along the way has been a surprise. So
that's interesting. Hey, so it wasn't like you got this big download of this vision and then you're like kind of setting it in motion. It's just like step by step.
Yeah, I'm a very bloom where you're planted kind of person. Just serve where you are, be faithful, keep going for it. I knew I had some big dreams, but I didn't know really what they looked like, and I didn't know how to get there. So you just keep doing what you do. But in Montreal, where I am now was never on the radar, nothing like that. So yeah, just surprise.
Yeah. So Trisha, how about you? Tell us about your 13-year-old self. What did you see? What did you want?
At 13,
were you a band geek?
13, I just think I wanted to survive high school. There were no big aspirations or anything. I had always liked kids and been really, working with kids was very natural for me. And so I think 13 in high school, I just thought that I would work somewhere in the field of kids. So even actually for 2 years in high school, I volunteered every day after school at a daycare. Because I was just trying to find my place and figure things out. And after 2 years, I discovered that I like kids, but I could never work at a daycare. So that was helpful to learn that piece of information. But there was no leadership desire really in me. I was just trying to find my way. And then when I felt the call to ministry, that was a whole process in itself because we had gone through a really difficult situation in our church. And so I had no desire to work in a church, but went to Bible college just trying to be obedient to God. And that was an interesting process. My mom is a dream big little girl, you can do anything you want type of person. And my dad was the realist. So my dad said to me when I went to Bible college that there would be no place for me in ministry as a woman, and I needed to have a backup plan. And he wasn't trying to be negative and tear me down. He was just seeing the reality of the world at that time. And that was where my confidence was growing, confidence in being obedient to what God was asking me to do. And so went to Bible college and was pursuing God and thought that it would just look like kids ministry for me. And then when I was in Bible college, I felt like I needed to transition from like a kids ministry diploma to a pastoral. And even in school then, I had a woman teacher pull me aside and say, you should really just think about adult ministry, because pastor for a woman might not be a fit. And again, it was like learning confidence to be obedient to what I felt that God was saying, and stuck with it and did this pastoral thing. And then ever since then, just following step by step. But it really has been a process of learning what God is saying and how to follow when you have some voices in your life that are, I don't know if negative is the right word, but trying to cause you to walk with realism and wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that, like you said, your dad wasn't trying to discourage you. He was just looking at the landscape of the realities of the landscape, and caring for you as his daughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Caution or warn. Now, one of the things that I heard from both of you was, I just kept moving step by step. Did you pick up that as you were talking? You both talked about that, of just like moving step by step. I wonder how that kind of relates to confidence. Why are you laughing, Trisha?
I think it does, right? We're like processing your question, Leanne.
Yeah.
I can remember, I don't know how old I was. I was probably like entering my young adult years. And I can remember a pastor saying to me that when Moses stood at the entrance to the Red Sea, that the hardest moment was when God told him to stretch out his hands over the Red Sea. And it was this simple act of obedience. But in the simple act of obedience, you're like trusting God and you're putting your confidence in him in the midst of standing in front of a million people who, in that moment, if nothing had happened to the Red Sea, he would have just been a man standing there with his hand over the waters, right?
That's awesome.
And ever since that pastor said that to me, I've thought about that often, that sometimes my obedience is simply taking one step of stretching, like putting my hand out, taking a risk, a step of courage, a step of confidence, even when I don't feel it.
Yes.
And just taking one step with the understanding that if this falls, I might look foolish, but I have to at least try.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think confidence is all wrapped up in that, taking just one step at a time. What's the next thing? Even if it feels like I'm unsure or this feels risky to me. But
I so resonate with that right now, because Darcy and I just took a step off the ledge, where we decided, I guess about 11 days ago, to resign from his job, the job that has a paycheck attached to it. Yeah, resign from that in order to move to Asia. And it's like, I don't know, making that step. Like if I waited to feel confident before I moved out, I'd be waiting here forever. But it's weird how, as I'm stepping out, that some confidence, like God's just showing up in neat ways that's kind of like boosting my confidence to take the next step, like just step by step by step. Thoughts about that, Patti?
So my parents have always been and still are, just try something and go for it and give it a shot. And my dad especially jokes around. He's most happy when he sees a cliff that he can jump off of and see if God will catch him this time, right?
wow.
So I grew up with that language, and so I'm processing what you were saying, Trisha, and what you're saying, Leanne, and I'm going. So I've always been, I'm shy and I'm cautious, and I don't go looking for a cliff to jump off of. But at the same time, I think I also have a thing in me that goes, I don't want to miss a moment, right? I don't want to miss something that really, really matter. And probably being raised in the church, being raised, for me anyway, I was raised in Pentecostal church. So you go to camps and you go to retreats, and our denominational ethos is very much, go for it, take a risk, step out in faith, get out of the boat. We say these metaphors, and we don't even remember anymore that they're metaphors. We just say, get out of the boat, and we all know what that means, right? And so, so I think there's a little bit of, well, I don't want to miss an opportunity, so I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna step forward, but I'm terrified. But I'm gonna try, because wouldn't it be awful if I missed this moment? If I didn't even try, like Tricia said, if I felt like God said, stretch that rod out over the Red Sea, and I was like, nope. Maybe I missed it, right? And I didn't want to miss it.
Yeah. I think in working with female leaders, like there's this sense that you have to feel confident first to move out, like to stretch that hand to speak to what you said, Tricia. I have to feel confident in order to make that first step. But I'm finding that if I make that first step, even if I don't feel confident, but I really sense God's leading, and I know it's an act of obedience, then suddenly the confidence comes. But I think we're just so many times kind of stopped because we're waiting to feel confident in order to take that first step, when really we take that first step and then the confidence comes.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know if you've ever been told this, but I can remember at different times in my life where people have said to me, like, you'll know where you're supposed to go based on the peace of God in your life. Okay, so there's something to that, because I'm sure even right now for Leanne, for you and Darcy, there's like a peace of God that's leading you. But at the same time, it's not like there's an absence of fear, right? In following God. Like there's this mix of, I feel the peace of the Holy Spirit and where God is leading me and what I'm supposed to be doing. And when you stand up and do something that requires confidence, you're trusting the peace of God, but at the same time, there's still fear involved. There's still risk involved. There's still the necessary aspect of choosing courage and taking a step, even when you don't feel fully confident, which is why, like, to me, confidence is so mixed with trust in God, because I've just never had a step in my life where I feel like fully confident, no fear, all peace. Let's go. Like there's always a mix of, peace and fear, confidence and, oh gosh, can I do this? And God, are you going to catch me? Like there's always that mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are we doing anything of value unless we have that little, like, I don't think we should go around terrified the whole time, but are we doing anything if we're not being stretched?
Yeah, that's boring. Like if we're not being stretched, after a while I get antsy, and I'm like, God, I'm bored now. And I don't mean that flippantly. Like I really value what I do. And like I said, at my last church, I was there 16 years and would have stayed there forever. I was really happy there, but still we're supposed to be growing, and growth means we're stretching and all of those things. So yeah, you gotta keep moving, like you said.
That's right.
When you're talking about the terror, if I could just say, so like, honestly, one of the most terrifying things for me was coming to Evangel in Montreal. I don't remember when I've been that afraid. And Trisha, I so appreciate you saying, sure, there's peace. There's also fear. Like I had confirmations both ways, right? No, I shouldn't go. Yes, I should go. And I could have sworn to you that God spoke both of those things and just didn't know. And I remember like sitting in my living room, bawling my eyes out, because I said to Jeff, I go, up until now, like I'm in a smaller church. It's a wonderful church, but I love it and all that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this church is 100 years old and it's in a city I don't know and all of this. And so I'm going to take a risk. And also it's a pretty public risk. So people I don't even know are going to watch and they're going to see if I fail, which is really, really scary.
And interestingly, did you feel like you were representing all women?
A little bit. Because that's what people kept saying to me,
Patti
right?
fails.
And I was like, oh my gosh, can I just do this secretly, right? Let me give it a shot secretly. Give me 6 months. And if it's okay, then we'll publicize it. But it was scary. And then when I got here, you know, I walk into this church, like I know information, but I walk in, I unpack my boxes. And the second day there's a staff meeting and all these staff that I don't know are looking at me going, okay, so what do you want to do with this? And what do you want to do with that? And I'm like, I don't know. Don't you know?
Look around for the lead pastor. Where the pastor?
And I was so thankful because I had Bill Morrow there, he stayed for 3 months to help get me settled in, which there's nobody that boosts your confidence more than him. And he just kept saying to me, Patti, just make the decision. That's why you're here. Make the decision. I never made so many decisions so fast and feeling like I didn't have enough knowledge in my life. But I was like, okay, God, I guess I'm here. This is my job. So I'm just going to make decisions. But oh my gosh, terrifying.
Yeah. So here's a question for you then. So you're having these thoughts come through. So you're stepping out into something, you know, I kind of call them toxic thoughts, like, you know, feelings of inadequacy or comparison or feeling like you're representing, you know, women in the pastorate and all that kind of stuff. How did you manage your mind?
So I talk to the people I trust a lot. So one's my husband, my parents, a couple people that I really trust. Those are the ones I let into my head. And I've learned over the years how to keep out the voices that are not going to help. But honestly, I think pardon?
Share how you keep those voices out.
I think it's practice. Like, I think it's practice and discipline because, so I'm going back to what you said earlier, Leanne, it's about knowing your identity, which sounds, I don't mean that hyper spiritual. I mean, I know my identity in God because I know I have a rock on my desk that says I am precious because that's what God has given me. And that to me means even if I completely fail, it doesn't change how God feels about me.
Yeah.
Which is that's incredible, right? Even if I bomb and everybody else recognizes I've bombed, God still thinks I'm precious. Even if I lose my job, God still thinks I'm precious. So that took a long time to get into my head. And I actually practiced when I wrote it in my journal every day for months. And I would pray it out loud over and over and go, these are the words I'm going to choose to put in my head because that's what I need to shape me. So then when the other voices come, I mean, I'm not perfect by any means, but you slowly get better at recognizing them and going, okay, you are not helpful to me. And I'm choosing, it's more actively choosing who I'm going to listen to. And then there's not room for the rest.
Right. Right. That's so good. Like there's been times in my leadership in the last few months where I have felt quite challenged. And I have to come back to this question of how do I lead as a beloved daughter? Mm-hmm. Because as a beloved daughter, then I can lead at rest. I don't have to prove myself. I don't, and because I've led as in a scarcity, feeling attacked mindset as well. And that does not ever lead to good places. I don't know. Thoughts, Tricia?
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like what you said, Patti, was so key. And that is like our confidence has to be tied to our identity in Christ. Mm-hmm. Because if our confidence is just tied to what we do, like it's constantly going to rise and fall because I'm going to have successes based on what I do and I'm going to have failures based on what I do. And when your confidence is like tied to that, you're going to be all over the place. But knowing who you are in Christ, knowing that we're daughters primarily, knowing that he loves us not for what we do but for who we are, like that's where I had to grow in confidence. And as I got more confident just knowing who I was as a daughter of the King, that he loves me, that it's not measured on my success or failures, like that helped to put my confidence in the right place.
So how do you remind yourself of that, Tricia?
Well, I think the basics of going back to the word and times of prayer, the reality is that usually I'll beat myself up first. I might have like a cry or a pity party, or I might go get myself some ice cream. And then it's like all of a sudden you like snap back and you're like, okay, wait a second. What do I know that's true? Like you pray and you get into the word, and right. And then you're brought back to the truth.
I preach to myself. And I let my dog listen. Like, I'm only sort of kidding. Like, I preach to myself. I just have to remind myself, because I don't know, I just feel like the world is set up to undermine confidence in women. And so it's almost like I have to be the one that manages it for myself. Like, by preaching to myself, by surrounding myself with people who are going to be truth tellers to me, and just constantly reminding myself of the call. And yeah. So when you think about women, what do you think are kind of the things that are undermining their confidence?
Well, I think that one would be the lack of examples of women, which I think the reality is there's more examples than we realize. We just aren't always aware of them, right? Like, Patti, I've felt for you so much over the years, because you've been like the cheerleader for like women pastors in Canada. Like, Patti Miller is the one that everyone knows. But the reality is there's a lot of female pastors in our nation, but they're not all known about. And so the lack of examples can cause some feelings of like, I can't do that because there's no one else doing it, right? Like, so we need to know about women. We need to see women at the table, and that helps build our confidence when we see others doing what we feel called to do or led to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I think sometimes other people's voices undermine our confidence. And to me, that goes back to choosing who we listen to. And like when I go in on a Sunday, or I'm going into a day where, like, now even if it's a day where I know I might run across somebody or whatever, like I take the armor of God seriously. I really do. And I pray, Ephesians 6, I'm taking on the full armor of God just in case, because I know how fast a comment can just throw me, right? I remember one time when I was like really young in ministry and I was leading worship, and there was a guest singer or something there at the church. And then she came back a year later, and I was leading worship again. And a year later, she said to me, "Oh my goodness, like it's really great how you led worship. You're so much better than a year ago." And I was like, oh my gosh, right? How bad was I a year ago, right? And like I still remember that. That's 25 years ago, and I still remember that comment. And she meant it as a compliment. So I know how fast I can be hit by words. And I really often pray, God, just cover me with your armor. Help me not to take in, don't let something land if it shouldn't. And if it does, you can feel it when it lands. This has really slammed me. And just to pause and pray like you were, Leanne, and just saying, okay, God, I know that's not true. The truth is, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. And just pushing that back again. But it's such a discipline. It's practice to choose which people get to speak, because lots of people can undermine your confidence really fast.
Yeah, no, that's good. I always, and I always, when I'm feeling not confident, I take a step back and I look at where I'm placing my confidence. Am I placing my confidence in God, who has called me to do X, Y, or Z? Or is my confidence based in what other people think about me, or based on my success, based on my image, based on my gifts? And so to me, it's always like kind of an opportunity to examine that a little bit. If I'm starting to feel shaky, I'll just, okay, Okay, Leanne, where's your confidence lying right now? What are you looking to in order to boost yourself up? And it's a struggle for sure. So so what do you think some common myths are about confidence?
I think one would be that confident people are just born with confidence. That like, oh, she was made that way. Yeah. No, I certainly wasn't. Yeah, I think another one is that that confident people are loud, that they have big personalities, that they command the room, like all those certain personality traits that accompany confidence. But I mean, there's such a thing as a quiet confidence and a humble confidence. And I've learned over the years that some people who appear to be confident because they're loud and have a big personality are actually really insecure, and they put on a fakeness in order to mask it, right?
Kind of cover it up or what have you.
Yeah, exactly. So confidence doesn't look the same in everyone. It takes on, it's like owning who you are, and everyone's personality is different. So it's not a stereotypical personality type.
Yeah. That's good.
And I think a person that has confidence, so I'm going to say this and then I may later think that wasn't true, but I think
You're allowed.
I'm not confident saying this. I think a person that's confident is more likely to make everyone else feel also comfortable around them. And what I mean by that is because I go, if somebody is like really blasting the loudness, like Trisha's saying, and look at how confident I am, they're making me feel pretty well, or I'm feeling insecure in reaction to that. But sometimes they're the ones that are insecure, whereas somebody who's really confident they don't have to prove anything. So they're relaxed and they make room for me, they make room for other people in the room. So yeah, I think that's true. I think that another thing that's about confidence, I think the myth is that it's a simple and straightforward thing when actually it's complex. So we've already talked about confidence includes sometimes fear and sometimes peace and sometimes both at the same time. And I think it's the same as faith that way. So I think sometimes when I use the word faith, I think we've tried to turn faith into, I'm saying this careful, but like certain knowledge, like I can prove this is true and that is my faith, but that's not faith, that's knowledge. Faith is acting as if what I believe is true, even if I'm not sure if it's true today. I'm pretty sure it's true. I think it's true. I've chosen to believe it's true. That's faith. And I think confidence has a real level of that as well. It's going, well, you know, I've been given this job to do, or I have this opportunity. So I have a responsibility to carry it and to do it well and to do it the best that I know how, even though nobody else knows, but I'm terrified on the inside.
Right.
And so confidence, I don't think is as simple. It's not just a one-dimensional thing. It's complex.
Right. So there's women on our call here, and you know, I'm looking around the virtual room, and there's you know, women in leadership and different areas. What would be your best advice for building confidence? Like Trisha, you said that it's not, I forget, you said, you know, a myth is that we're just born with it, right? So then if that's not true, then confidence can be built. So I'd love to hear, you know, just your thoughts about how we as women can build our confidence.
I think you just do things.
Yeah.
You just do things. I don't know how to say it like more simply than that. Like, I heard someone recently use the phrase "do it scared."
Nice.
So like,
that's awesome.
You just try and you take the risk and you stretch out like Moses did, right? With the understanding that maybe it won't go according to plan and you're going to look foolish, but maybe God is going to split the waters before you. You just have to try something. When I was graduating from Bible college, when I walked across the stage, our Bible college president, he shook all of our hands and he gave each one of us a word. And the thing that he said to me was, say yes to every opportunity. Which right now in my life, I'm like, I don't know if that's wisdom because I need a day off. But at 23, 24, whatever age I was when I was graduating, that was the best thing that he said to me, because there were things that I was so afraid to do and say yes to. I didn't have the confidence to do those things, but I heard his voice in the back of my head say yes to every opportunity. And so I would say yes, and I would try.
Yeah.
And then whatever happened. But as I would try and either succeed or fail, my confidence would grow for the next thing to try. So I just think, just do things. Just try.
You know, I call that act as if. Like that's what I'll think about something. Say I'm going to, it's funny, Patti, you say you're shy. I kind of am too in social settings. I love one-on-one. But when it's a big group, I just kind of like go around the side of the room, and I'd rather disappear, honestly. But my work is forcing me to engage, sometimes in large groups. And so what I'll ask myself is, okay, what would a confident woman do in this moment? Yeah. Well, first of all, she put her lipstick on, because a confident woman would do that. Like, I honestly think that. I think, okay, she would, like work on her appearance a bit. And then she would walk in the room and she would look at people in the eye and say, hello, my name is Leanne, blah, blah, blah. And it sounds so dumb, but I have to sometimes like break it down like that and just think, no, this is what a confident person would do. And what do you think of that?
Oh, totally. So I think that's called fake it till you make it. For me, really, I remember doing that. I could tell you, I did that at a district conference because I never felt like I belonged. I didn't think I was wanted there. I didn't think I was welcomed. And there's a whole story leading up to it. But I actually just did an experiment. And I sat in the car in the parking lot going, okay, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to walk up to every person I know and greet them by name and shake their hand. And when they ask me how my church is doing, I'm going to answer with a fact. I'm not just going to deflect to them. That was my simple experiment. And it changed my world because I was like, okay, now I'm acting like a leader. And turned out everyone was happy to have me there. Where I had been feeling like nobody wanted me. But I think, I laugh. I think we have to play mind games with ourselves, whatever we need to do to get there. Like sometimes I go, well, what if I wrote down, if there's an opportunity or something's happening, I'm scared. And I go, okay, why are they asking me? Why is this opportunity coming to me? So write it down, like make a resume of who I am or what I've done or whatever, and then put somebody else's name at the top. And when I put somebody else's name at the top, I go, oh, they totally could do that. So then I go, well, then why do I think that I can't, right? Yeah. Or I really do ask the question a lot, what's the very worst that can happen? Yeah. Because it's not that bad, actually, right? It just might be I look stupid. But the odds of me actually dying because of whatever opportunity are really slim to none.
Yeah, right? Like it is highly unlikely we'll die on this webinar.
Right.
It's highly unlikely.
So I just go, well, like, what's the absolute worst? And once you actually confront that and go, how would I handle that? Well, then it's not so bad. So, but you got to like play the mind games with yourself and trick yourself. I start almost all my sermons. I write the words rough draft at the top. And I write possible rough draft of what I might say. That's like that, because I freeze at the blank page. And so I just start, and then I go, oh, if I could just talk, I would just say this. And I just start typing and then the flow starts, right? But you got to do the mind games with yourself, or I do anyway.
My other little tip that I do is I call everything a pilot project. Everything. My children, when I was raising them, total pilot project. Like, it freed me up. This webinar, it's a pilot project. Anyone comes, oh, well, we try things. I honestly have the hashtag we try things because I am a perfectionist by nature. And if I didn't free myself up to just try things, I would get nothing done ever. So the identity course, that's a total pilot project. You know, it's been published for 3 years. It's still a pilot project. It just, when you put it in that framework, suddenly it just changes everything because you're allowed to fail. Because a pilot project, all it is just trying things. And if you fail, you circle around and try again. But the thing is you begin to see actually, oh my goodness, we had some success there. And then you build on that, right?
Yeah.
What's your top tip, Tricia?
Everything you guys said sounds really good. You know what it sounded like to me though? It sounded like coaching yourself. Yeah. Like you're really good at coaching other people.
Or talking to yourself in small rooms.
Yeah. But we're great. Like you think even what you said, Leanne, about like looking people in the eye and saying things, or Patti, when you walked into district conference, like you think like when your kids go to school for the first time, like you coach them through that first day, right? Like go in and introduce yourself to a little kid, and we're great at coaching other people, but we're not always so good at coaching ourselves. And that's all that it is. It's like self-talk. It's like giving yourself a plan beforehand. It's building up your confidence on your own before you're put in a situation. Yeah.
Right away, when you say that, I think about like the role we can have in each other's lives as women, like to be like generous with our coaching of one another. You know, like like I have girlfriends that want to try something and I just see it. Like to me, it's a no-brainer, and yet they're, you know, kind of humming and hawing or whatever. But at that point, what can my role be of like pumping up their tires and saying, this is what I see in you, and you're so gifted at this, and this is a strength, and you can do this, and how can I help? You know?
Yeah. And even just to also say to them, and you know what, if it doesn't work out, I'm still here. Like I'm still your friend, and good on you. You tried. Better to try than to not try.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a big fear, at least it would be for me, is everyone will turn on me, and then I'm on my own and despised, you know, by everyone, which is a big fear. and for somebody to say, look, even if you bomb, I'm still here with you. Oh, okay, somebody's got my back.
Yeah. So good. So good. I would love, we're a small enough group. There's just 12 of us here. So does anyone have a question? You would need to go and unmute yourself. So by your name is a little microphone with a strike through it. You would just press on the microphone. If there's a question, a comment, something you want to add.
This is a good moment of confidence right now, because it's going to take some serious confidence for someone to click unmute and let their voice be heard.
I love that. Okay, looking around the room, who needs to grow most? We'll just put them on the spot, right? Somebody.
I'd put up my hand and say, I think when I've had to deal with confidence, it's a real shame buster for me. That shame holds me back and keeps me, it's the fear of I'll look stupid, my question will be laughed at, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not educated enough, and that all those pieces kind of keep me locked into a shame category. And for me, when I deal with that, then I step in, and maybe like you said, it comes down to the identity a little bit, but I do feel that sometimes when we're called to walk in confidence, we also have to deal with shame sometimes. Yeah. And also to identify the difference between arrogance and confidence is key, I think, especially as women. Because sometimes we are labeled as being arrogant when we're really confident, and sometimes we're arrogant and we think we're being confident. And we have to be very clear on those two. That's just my comment.
That's awesome. Thank you, Marlon.
Leanne, I'm wondering if you can just address comparison with women. Like it bugs me that I'm 41 and I still struggle with comparison when I'm watching a woman speak and I'm so inspired by her, but I'm like, oh, she's so much prettier than I am and her clothes are so nice. I could never get up on stage and look that good. Or how does she stay so skinny? How is her hair so nice? And I think I know the answers to all of this, but I don't know, I think other women must feel this way too. I'm wondering if you guys can just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that I actually think that comes under the whole thing about managing our minds, right? Because we have toxic thoughts. And when I talk about, our society is not set up to build confidence in us. Because, social media, we're watching people, people create platforms where it just, to me, it's always speaking about what I'm not, right? And I just think it's kind of a recipe. And then I think about our younger women. You say you're 41. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
And, 51. I'm still a little bit, but I'm coming along in that journey. But I think about the younger women that are comparing themselves, and their confidence is in the toilet. Any thoughts? Patti, Trisha, anybody?
Yeah, I think so. Everybody feels it. Everybody does. And we all have our thing where we're like, why, I know how to do this, but I can't do that. Right. Like we all have our things and where I don't feel adequate. I can't do this, whatever, if people knew this about me and all of that. But I think actually when we realize actually everybody feels like that, and they actually feel like that about you. Right. So then if we instead of maybe there's room for us, instead of trying to go, I'm still okay even when I'm in a little square between Leanne and Trisha, right? I'm still okay. Instead of doing that, maybe we go, well, let's just pour into the other person because maybe they're feeling the same thing, and pour confidence into them instead of wishing that they would make me feel better about who I am, or that somebody would. Maybe I just recognize they feel the same thing. And so I start taking, be proactive and start just pouring out to other women because they're feeling the same thing. And then that's all kind of by definition ends up strengthening our own confidence, I think.
Yeah.
I'll just say, so to me, it's so true. We all struggle with this, and the comparison kind of falls for me in two categories. One is, you already identified this, like your appearance, like that whole aspect of insecurity and wanting to look like other, and that's a whole thing I just think we constantly have to bring to Jesus. Constantly, right? And but then there's the other aspect of comparing your skills and where you are in life and the opportunities versus where someone else is and what skills they have and their opportunities, right? And what I've had to really wrestle with and come to an understanding with is that what the world needs is for me to be me. And what my church needs is who God made me to be. And so I could, like, even today, like listening, like, Patti, I didn't know you led in worship. Like, what the heck? So I could be like, oh, great. One more skill that Patti has. Like, she can do whatever and I can't. But the reality is God gave Patti a set of skills because he knew the places that he would take her and the people that she would be with. And that's who the world needs Patti to be. In my context, in my calling, I don't thank the Lord. I don't need to lead worship. He didn't give me that skill and ability. But what God has given me and who he's made me to be is exactly what my sphere of influence needs. Does that make sense? Like,
totally.
the world just needs me. And so it's easy for me to compare and be like, oh, like they have those skills and look at the doors that God has opened for them. But I'm just supposed to live my calling, and everything that I am and everything that I have within me is what God has given me for the path that he's designed for me. So we just have to like own who we are and own the world that we're in and the platform that we have and the leadership circle influence that he's given us, because that's who my people need me to be me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Margolin's in the choir and she's like waving her hanky. She's loving it. It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm just working on the identity course right now, and we just refilmed, and I'm whatever anyway. And one of the sections is own your strengths and use your gifts. Mm-hmm. Because our strengths, and Jenny, you have incredible strengths. Those strengths are where your greatest contribution lies.
Yes.
And so instead of looking at what you're not good at, instead of looking at your weaknesses, it's like, look at your thing. And I mean, there was a theologian, his name is Ed Clowney, and he talked about when we become a Christian, we all get the same last name, meaning, I guess, Christian. But the life of a disciple is to really discover our first name, that unique bit that we bring to the table, that unique bit that is all ours. And we do a disservice to the body when we spend our whole time wishing that our first name was something else than what he's given us, right? So, I love that. Did that answer your question, Jenny?
Sorry, I'm technically challenged here. Yes, it did. It was very powerful. And I feel like I knew those answers, but I like that discussion, and I love what all of you had to say about that. Especially, is it Trisha with the blonde hair? I don't know. Thank you. That was really powerful.
So good. Someone else.
So I'm just wanting to say, my name is Marjorie.
Hi, Marjorie.
And I just want to say how this is so awesome. This is the second one that I'm watching, and just to hear women lifting each other up and just having these needed conversations among women in ministry, women's ministry in the church. I think kudos to you and your team. And I just want to say thank you. It means a lot to hear people saying what I'm hearing. You know what I mean? Like when you can connect with what you're hearing, you realize that you're not off somewhere. You know, you're there. You're where you need to be when you hear the confirmation. So thank you so much.
Awesome. That's good. Very good. So we're at the top of the hour, and I hope this has been encouraging to you. It has certainly been encouraging to me. And I love getting in the minds of other women and realize that it's not just me. It's like, it's a struggle for all of us. Yeah. And yet we keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Because as Trisha says, the world needs me.
Yeah.
The world needs Marjorie. The world needs Ginny, needs Tracy, needs Allie. Like the world needs us. And so, let's not get distracted, and let's look for ways to build confidence. Sound good?
Good.
Good. Patti, do you want to pray for us and those that will listen in the future, and then we'll wrap it up there.
Okay. God, you are the one who's created us. You are the one that sees us for who we really are. And I mean that in a positive way. You look at us and you're just delighted. You see your daughters. You don't see perfect human beings. You see deeply loved human beings who you created and who you have called precious and wonderful. And you have a call on each one of our lives. And Lord, exactly what Tricia said, that we need to be who you've called us to be and who you've created us to be. What a tragedy it would be if we missed those moments thinking somebody else had to do it or we weren't good enough. And God, you were standing there going, no, I called you. So God, I pray that you would fill each of us listening now and in the future with the confidence and the faith that comes from knowing that we are children of God. We are created by God, and you have a call on our lives, and you don't call us to be perfect, but you do call us to be faithful and to be obedient. So God, stir up faith, stir up confidence, where there are choices to be made, and that the fear is fighting the peace, and they're both there at the same time. God, surround us with wise voices that help to show us which direction to go. And I pray that your blessing and your call would come, and you would release every woman listening to this in Jesus' name to do what she's called to do. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Awesome. Stay tuned for our next webinar. Have no idea when it is. Have no idea what it's about, but I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. Anyway.
It's a pilot project.
Yeah, that's right. We try things. I mean, how hard can it be, right? Anyway, thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.